Hi, I'm Jordan, and I run sendwithscout.com. Today we're going to be looking at 6 Every Door direct mail targeting tools. Now, you may ask, what is Every Door direct mail? Well, Every Door direct mail is a service offered by USPS that allows marketers to talk to people in specific locations. How this works is that you pick the zip codes that you would like to target and carrier routes within those zip codes. And carrier routes are just a fancy word for the routes that postal service workers walk. The benefit of this is that you can significantly lower your cost as opposed to buying a direct mail list because those carrier routes don't incur postage costs. It's a separate cost by the USPS. You can also target carrier routes by census data, so things like average income, average household size, homeowner, are there children present in the home? So now that you have a good understanding of Every Door direct mail, let's take a look at the tools. So we're looking at 6 different tools today. USPS's EDDM tool, which stands for Every Door direct mail. Now, it's important to note that while this tool is a great targeting tool, you can't actually send with it. You need to go find a printer and then prepare the mailings, and so one thing to keep in mind when using that tool. EveryDoorDirectMail.com. EveryDoorDirectMail.com actually licenses their tool out to Staples and FedEx and Taradel, and so we're going to be looking at the Staples version, but it's all directly from EveryDoorDirectMail.com. EDDM Experts. Again, like Every Door direct mail, EDDM Experts licenses their tool out to ImageMedia and SonicPrint, so you'll find the same experience there. So we're just going to look at the EDDM Experts option there. Express Copy, Primo Print, and Printing for Less. The differences between 2 through 6 and 1 is that the targeting is then attached to a process for you to actually go and print those cards, find templates, and ship out your Every Door direct mail campaign. Whereas the USPS tool will just help you do targeting and you have to do the other pieces yourself. Let's take a look. First, we're going to take a look at USPS's EDDM tool. So we're going to start by typing in an address, and I'm going to target an address that's close to me, 104 Pine Street. Takes a little while to process. Now you'll notice that it shows the carrier routes that are in a mile radius, and there are big red markers that kind of obscure some of those routes. But you can go ahead and hover over the routes and see information about each of the routes and what income, average income, size, age. Yeah, so you can hide that information or show it. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at a table view here, which I find is a little bit easier to digest. So here you can see these are all the routes that are within a 1 mile radius of our target location. So you can see the average size of the household, the average income, the cost, which again, just the USPS cost there, not for printing and getting that to USPS. You can see the number of residential homes and businesses in that route, and then the actual carrier route numbers. So I'm just going to go ahead and sort by the average household size if that's what I was targeting for. Great. Now, it's good to just make note of this if you decide to use a different printer. I'm going to go ahead and just select some routes here. Now, you'll probably want to be a little bit more discriminating than me. Now, note I've got just under 5,000 routes selected here, and EDDM actually won't allow me to send more than 5,000 pieces if you do it through the USPS system. So you'd only be able to drop off 5K at a time to individual post offices with this tool. So one thing to keep in mind if you're sending a lot of direct mail with EDDM, the post office, and finding a printer that you have to coordinate the two is probably not your best bet. Now, there's one thing that I really like about USPS's tool, and that's the ability to type in sort of arbitrary zip codes. In this case, 94109 is my zip code here in San Francisco, and 95125 is the zip code in San Jose, California. So about an hour apart. So I wouldn't be able to see this on a map, and notice the radius select disappears at the top. Now I can actually target the carrier routes based on the averages of demographics for both of these zip codes. Especially if I'm doing nationwide targeting, which we've got a piece on at blog.sendwithscout.com on how you would best go about doing that. The EDDM tool is a pretty flexible tool for targeting nationwide zip codes where you want to focus in on income or age ranges or residential businesses. And there's even additional targeting options that you'll find in other tools that you could then come back to the USPS tool and use this feature to really hone in on the best demographic carrier routes across all the United States. That's the USPS Everydoor Direct Mail tool. Thanks. Let's go to the next one. This is everydoordirectmail.com. So as I mentioned before, Staples, FedEx, and Taradel use the exact same tool. And in this case, I chose the Staples model as it comes up a little bit higher on Google rankings, so you're more likely to find it. All right, let's dive in. So here is Staples. And if you Google Staples EDDM tool, you'll find this page. It is a pain in the butt to get to the actual tool, so we're going to make about 700 clicks here so you can see just how to get into the Everydoor Direct Mail tool. Great, we've arrived. Now we can type in our same address, 104 Pine Street, 94109. All right. Now this is actually probably querying some USPS database, which is why it takes a while for carrier routes to load. Ah, great. Now show me. Now you got to zoom in here, and we're going to use a radius tool to actually show the radius around this address. Now it's just going to draw this circle here, so it's not really going to help you select the routes. It's just going to tell you, hey, this is a mile from your address. And you can see residential, business, PO box. You'll have some filters there. This drive time filter I haven't really found useful at all. I think it's just best to use the radius tool. Different cities have different methods of travel. So in San Francisco, we like to walk. So it wouldn't really make sense to target people based on drive time. But at least you can get a sense of how you should engage with your targeting based on this drive time. So let's go ahead and hide that. Demographics is really great. This is the best demographics tool that we found for many different criteria. There's a lot of different selects here for household income and ranges. And again, these are all just averages, so you'll want to keep that in mind. So we're going to go ahead and select some age averages here. So this would be the average number of people that are in the house between 45 and 65. Gender, let's target men. See this on the map here. I really like this heat map. One thing to note about this particular heat map, though, is that there are only 5 different heat levels. So something that matches your criteria 90% is going to look the same thing that matches your criteria at 80% or even 50%. So you want to actually hover over each of these routes to see what the percentage match is here, which you can see on the left. It'll show you a breakdown of residential or business addresses, apartments versus homeowners, which is really nice, especially if you're a realtor and want to target people that are considering buying. So great. Now, based on all of these criteria, you can see that I have a 28% match, which is kind of nice that it looks at all of the data across the carrier routes that I've selected and told me on average how well do the demographics that I've selected match with what I'm targeting. Now let's see what happens when I change the demographics. So take a look at the heat map on the back, and I'm going to deselect some ages here and males and just target high income earners. So take a look at the map here and see what changes. Great. You see how actually a lot of the areas got hotter. So you'll notice that there are now more zip codes that match a finer range of criteria, which is just high income earners. So you can go ahead and again and hover over these different groups here. Now it makes sense that this is the financial district that we're looking at, so a lot of people live there, and it's not too surprising that there aren't super high wealthy people living downtown. And then as you get towards the marina and the Presidio, that changes. Again, you can see the totals, the average criteria match based on your selection. So we can save this and continue to name our map here. the rich. And now you have sort of an overwhelming number of choices here. You always have to sign in after you do targeting. It's sort of a way to get you through the door. Now that you've got your list here, go ahead and select some options. So you can see in the background that there's, in this case, there's actually 4 different, you can't see all of them here, but there are 4 different EDDM sizes. You select next steps. There's about 100 million templates that you have to choose from. You can work with the designer if you want. You'll notice there's a nice little summary of the rich there on the left and which carrier routes you've selected. So we actually like the Staples tool for the heat map demographic targeting, but you likely shouldn't order from Staples. You should look at our blog post at blog.sendwithscout.com on price comparisons. Take the data that you get from this site and go there. All right. Taradel mail, we're not going to look at, same as Staples.
It
so
is.
looks very familiar,
same
right?
as everydoordirectmail.com.
So you can actually just take your information you learned from Staples and go here if the
one.
price is right. Now let's move on to EDDM Experts. So we're at the search page. Looks very similar to what we had before. The default radius is 10 miles, which I don't think makes as much sense as a mile. Great, same address as always. I'm going to do 5 miles, get it as tight as I can. Submit that. Everyone has very strange loading tiles, so we're going to go ahead and zoom in. Now, notice that what's highlighted is a 5-mile radius, but you can go ahead and do the same thing as before and throw a big circle around just a mile of that radius. Now, the demographics here are a little bit different. You have fewer selects on the household income, gender, male or female. You have a larger range of ages. So if you're targeting younger folks or a more specific group of people, you can do that a little bit better with this tool. Great. So you can see the highlighting is a little bit less clear than the Staples tool. So you kind of have to hover over to determine what percentage of a match each carrier route is. And so we're going to go ahead and just select a couple here. Yeah, notice that some carrier routes are very strange. They cover places that are not always contiguous. So pay attention to that. It's nice that just residential addresses are selected here. Now this view as table option is great because it means that you're going to be able to basically export your list and use a different printer really easily. And in many cases, you'll be able to do targeting a lot easier with the table option. So let's go ahead and just click into that table so you can see what I mean. So these are the routes that we have selected, and it's really easy to see the percentage match here. And it's also very clear that I haven't even got the best matched options. So I'm going to go ahead and deselect some routes here. Again, if you're, this is easy to copy out. So if you want to change the printer, you can easily do that and just target the routes that you want and send it off to the printer that is the cheapest or that has the print sizes that you like. Again, we've got a table at blog.sendwithscout on that. So the residential apartment, super great for realtors, PO boxes, businesses. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Note that I've got 2,873 addresses here. And great, just like every other tool that we've looked at, this is when they want us to create an account. And it makes sense, these tools want you to get a sense of their targeting to help you along with your marketing, and then you got to create an account so you can print and pay and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so that's EDDM Experts. Great, now let's look at Express Copy. Here's Express Copy. Now, a lot of these tools are a little bit old school, so let's go ahead and type in our address. I like that this tool uses Google Maps. So notice that we don't get really a selection around the address, and it's a little bit unclear what's happening here. So I'm going to zoom in. Aha, there we go. now that we zoom, we can actually see the routes, and we have to drag over to highlight the carrier routes. This is a little bit more confusing than the other tools because they're streets here. So I have to sort of think about how I'm doing targeting. Also, I like that I can just X off the box to remove businesses. But the routing isn't super clear here. I actually have to click the details to determine a very limited set of information here. So we don't suggest express copy. Great, let's look at PrimoPrint. Now, PrimoPrint, unlike other tools actually, allows you to select all of your sizes and weights and widths and delivery dates. So unlike other tools that make you do that later, they want to know the size you're printing at before you do targeting. I think this is a little bit backwards, but we'll go ahead and click through it just to check out the targeting. It's nice to look at the design option too here. Most of the design options at a lot of these sites range from $100 to $300 per card. Great, so here's the route select. So let's go ahead and type in our address. I like this. It's called a glazed list here. When you start typing and it gives suggestions, Google's API allows you to do this. Got a little Zen-like loader, which I enjoy. Great. So unlike other tools, this actually highlighted all of the routes within a 1 mile radius. You'll even notice there are some routes up there on Treasure Island. So you can really visually see what is within a mile radius. And again, because these carrier routes are a little bit strange, they're not perfectly, it's not a perfect round circle, for example. So these routes actually aren't selected, which is a little bit unclear, but you can go ahead and click into them and select them. And you have a nice little view here, businesses and residential, and as you hover, you can see, okay, what's the median income? The median household size is a little funny, 1.73076,854. Go ahead and tell that to your 2 kids that they're that divisible. Great. So I just want residential addresses, and I'm going to click into some addresses here. And you can see it's nice that they actually tell you the total price. So all the hoops that we had to jump through before allow us to get a exact price of what it's going to cost to send postcards. And then it's nice that you can actually click into this sort of hidden area to see medium income and residential or business. You don't get as much targeting information as some of the other tools, but I do like how the zip code routes were auto sort of highlighted so I knew what I was working with. And I like the cost too. So we found 93 routes within a mile of your search. That's nice that it gave us a little bit of summary information there. And then again, as you hover over, you can tell the color changes to determine which routes I have selected versus which are just highlighted there. Well, there you go. That is PrimoPrint. Now let's move on to the next one. Here's printing for less. Let's take a look. Here we go. One of the things I like about printing for less is you can do everything on a single page. You can select your size, your ink, the coating you want, the thickness of the paper. The route selection is kind of hidden there, but everything's included. They'll send it all off to USPS. They can actually ship you additional items via FedEx directly. You can upload your art files, or you can do a reprint of a previous order, which is nice. And then you just provide your check-in information, your visa, shipping, project information, and then boom, you can complete your order right there. How great is that? Some of it is a little bit more difficult than that. So, the designs, for example, but this is the easiest click-through rate. So let's select our routes. Let's click Start here. This is the targeting tool. I like that they use Google Maps, so let's go ahead and pull up Pine Street. Here we got to type the whole address. Oh, not San Jose, San Francisco. There we go. So these are all the highlighted routes around the address that I've selected. So notice there aren't any really great demographic filtering pieces here. That's why I put it sort of at the end of the video, as it's our least favorite in terms of targeting options. But the nice thing is you actually get context information as you hover over route. So if location's super important to you, you can actually just see some summary of each route. So if you're hyper targeting, this might be a good way to do that because you can see the median age, the number of multifamilies there, if it's businesses, how many people are in that. You can see the route number. It's a little bit harder to copy out that information, but let's go ahead and select a couple routes. Here we go. Great. So you notice that the routes come on the right. So if, let's say, you're using a different tool or you want to move your targeting from this tool to the others, you can do that by copying the routes here with the counts. Again, you just need the zip code and carrier route to be able to send with any of these tools. So yeah, we wouldn't recommend this targeting tool unless you were doing hyperlocal targeting and wanted to just sort of see some summary stats of the carrier routes around you. Let's go ahead and save that. And the price updates. Again, we like that the full price can be seen here as with the previous option that we looked at. And we can adjust, we can make changes here to see how that impacts the price if we're really looking for cost savings here. Again, at our blog, we've got reviews of different pricing for different EDDM printers. Well, there you go. So taking a look back at all the EDDM targeting tools, you'll see that you have a lot of options. If we were doing EDDM targeting for the country, we would probably start out at our blog post that helps you identify which zip codes are going to be the best for your product. And then we would use USPS's EDDM tool to target multiple zip codes. If we were doing hyper-local targeting, we'd probably use the Staples tool, as the highlighting was really nice. Now, some of the other tools may be able to augment your search. So EDDM Experts, for example, allows you to see a nice table view. So if location wasn't your primary goal, but you kind of wanted to find what are the best carrier routes around this particular address, then we would definitely suggest that you use EDDM Experts. Now, remember, you don't have to print with any of these shops. These are just the targeting tools. You can use that information to determine which carrier routes you would like to target and then take your business anywhere you want. Well, we hope this tutorial has been helpful for you, and feel free to go to blog.sendwithscout.com for more information, more reviews, and more great content. Thanks so much for coming. Bye.